Namaste everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Aditi and if you're new here, I would like to formally and personally welcome you. Please like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you're coming back, welcome back. I'm glad to have you. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers before the New Year's, and it'd be really awesome if you help me get to that goal. As you can see, we are in a completely new setting today. So I'm home for break, and there's a really funny story involving that. And that story involves me packing up my camera gear, my mic, and everything that goes along with it, and then forgetting it. So we are filming this on my dad's phone, and let's see how it goes. So now that we've gone over all those precursors, let's get on to today's topic. I will be reviewing a Pardesi in Paradise by Dr. Govinda Rizal. Dr. Govinda Rizal was born and brought up in Bhutan, where he studied until he was in college, and then he has studied in Bhutan, India, Nepal, and Japan. He worked in the Philippines as a plant breeder and molecular biologist, testing the feasibility of the development of C4 rice, a rice that utilizes sun rays, water, fertilizer to effectively yield more. I don't know what I just said. I'm not a biologist person, but that all seems really cool considering we eat like rice every single day. He realized the urgency to write the story of his community in a while ago, so he wrote it. This book was published in 2018, and so far this is the only book that he has written and published. He does have a lot of research papers though. If you're going to go through those research papers, that's great for you. I personally am not. No offense. I just am not interested in plant breeding. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you before I start with everything I have to say about the book. I did not enjoy reading this book at all. It took me weeks to get through. I think it took a couple of months actually. I found no joy in reading this book. It was like running a No, cross that out. It was like doing an Ironman. It is in total about 482 pages long, and I felt every single one of those pages as I was reading them. It was like another weight put on my shoulders. So reading books that are 400 plus words is pretty normal for, obviously if it's a words. 400 plus pages is pretty normal for me. But this book, it was a lot, and I'll get into that in a moment. So now that you know my opinions on the process of reading this book, let me tell you what it's about. So this is the summary, pulled almost exactly from here. I am reading this off of my iPad, so if I make a few mistakes, that's why. So Dr. Govinda Rizal's life is a distinct history of politics, geography, language, culture, and whatnot. A Pardesi in Paradise carries autobiographical subjects of various relationships. He has articulated his multiple identities derived from the constant placement and displacement and linked his activism to academics. So this book is autobiographical. It is Dr. Rizal's story. And this book sort of follows him from childhood, his childhood in Bhutan, attending school in Bhutan, and then going on with his education in Bhutan, and then the start of the One Nation, One People policy, and how he dealt with that as a student, and then eventually being forced out of Bhutan and into the refugee camp, and the activism he did following that. So now that we've gone through sort of what the book is about, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the mid. So I could relate to Dr. Rizal really well when he explained what it is like being a refugee. Let me actually read an excerpt out of the book. So this is from Chapter 2, Unexiled Thoughts, and it goes from page 12 to about page 13. Start quote. I was not born a refugee. For the first 2 decades of my life, I had a country to love and be proud of. The country was Bhutan. I tasted its soil and smelled its prettiture. It was my cradle. I grew up there, studying the sun, the moon, stars, their positions, and their risings and settings. I learned about the time of day and the seasons of the years from everything that I saw around. My horizon was limited, but everything existed there. Bhutan was my world, my universe. With the end of my teenage, I had to terminate my stay in Bhutan and disown many things. The conditions constricted my chance of survival and compelled me to seek protection elsewhere with the hope to see one more sunrise. I carried Bhutan in my head and sought asylum in another country, Nepal. Both Bhutan, my country of birth, and Nepal, my host country, refused to accept me in their nationhood. I became a refugee. No country accepted me, and I had no country to seek justice and claim rights. I became stateless. I went around the world, lived in the paradise, but fitted nowhere. After living for years and learning their languages, I would begin to consider the paradise as my Swadeshi, homeland, until a native would wake me up from the glory with casual questions. Which country are you from? Your nationality? I would wake up and realize that I am a Pardesi, an outsider, in the paradise. Every time I entered a paradise, my unexiled memories of my days in Swadesh, Bhutan, refreshed and became markers for comparison. Um, so, as he stated there, he was not born a refugee. He was born in Bhutan, like so many others, and then he was forced to flee the country because of the one nation, one country policy. So, I am somewhat of an outlier here. I was born in the refugee camp, but moved to America, got resettled in America when I was about 18 months old. So my experiences are very, very different from Dr. Rizal's. So I can't really compare there, but I can understand his feelings of being an outsider, a Pardesi in the paradise. That's something I feel a lot of, like almost every day. I mean, my parents have their homeland in Bhutan. My brother has his homeland in America, and I have my homeland in Nepali camp, in a refugee camp in Nepal. So that's really fun when people like bring up the conversation of like, oh, where are you from? What's your nationality and all that. It's a fun conversation. Anyways, so this book is like very informative, as you could tell from what I stated. I think I learned something new in every single little section. Dr. Rizal is obviously a researcher, so this is written in a very scientific way. That's the best way I have to explain it. So let me go through the basic format of the book once I get out of this page. Okay, so you have the chapter. So I think this is the first chapter. Okay. You have the chapter, an interview to see people, and then you have like, if I can flip this page correctly, and then there are these like sort of bolded parts, and then those sort of like start a new section. So in my definition, in my sort of like way of defining a book that for me is enjoyable, there's an overarching story, and obviously there is an overarching story here of Dr. Rizal's like whole journey from being a citizen of Bhutan to being forced out of Bhutan to like going to his activism that he did in Nepal, and then to going to study in Japan, and then eventually getting resettled. But all of that falls flat because of the way it is written. I obviously felt sympathy for everything that Dr. Rizal went through, but that was because I had already had outside knowledge about it. If I was just somebody who picked up this book, I honestly don't think I would feel sympathy. It is written in a very scientific way, like he's completely removed from it, so it makes it very hard to relate to. Yeah. Another big part of this book is that there are lots of names. I think at some points there were just paragraphs filled with names. And that was really hard for me. I knew some of the people who were named, but most of them I didn't know. And they didn't really have any clear introduction to why they were important, why their names were being mentioned in Dr. Rizal's story. So it made it really hard for me to understand why they were there, why I was reading paragraphs of their name. To a casual reader, this would be really hard to understand. It was hard for me to understand, and I've obviously read other books about what happened in Bhutan. Okay, now that we've gotten past the stuff I didn't like about the book, let's get on to the stuff I like about the book. So this book helped me learn about the different perspectives within the Bhutanese community. Obviously, my parents were forced out of Bhutan as well, but they were forced out at like early adolescence. I think they were around the ages of 11, 12, 10, sort of that age. But Dr. Rizal was forced out when he was 20, which is almost a decade older than my parents. So it really helped me this helped me understand the perspective of the older population. Not like older, but you know what I mean. Population that was forced into fleeing from Bhutan, which is really something I really hadn't thought much about before. I understood like my grandparents' perspective, but not really that middle ground perspective. And this really helped me a lot. Dr. Rizal basically had his whole entire life, his whole entire future uprooted because of one policy that the king made, and that's not fair at all to the to everybody else that happened to as well. To everybody else that same scenario happened to, and this really helped me understand that. This is also very good to help you understand the true horrors of what happened. He doesn't go into very vivid detail, but he goes into detail about all the different punishments that were inflicted onto the Bhutanese refugees and all the different like things that happened during the activism period. He talks about doing a like fasting, not fasting, but like I forget the name of the word, but hunger strike. That is the word. Doing a hunger strike in the jails in India, I believe, so that they could get better rights and stuff there. And that like I hadn't heard that before, and that really helped me understand all the activism that happened there. So all in all, this was a pretty good read. I would like rate it 5 out of 10. Not something I'd read again like for fun, but if I really needed to read this book, I would read it again. And I definitely hope that you check it out. It is a Pardesi in Paradise by Dr. Govinda Rizal. I learned a lot from this book. It might have not been the most pleasant experience, but very few things in life happen because they are pleasant. A lot of things happen in life because it needs to happen. And I needed to read this book to understand the true horrors of what happened in Bhutan. So now that we're near the end of the review, I would like to say thank you for watching. Be sure to check out this book. Please like, comment, subscribe. Comment your thoughts on what you thought of this review. Have you read this book before? Do you have your own perspective that you would like to share? Comment them down below, and yeah, thank you for watching. Namaste.